when you're looking up the sky, it's still the same old formation. Banana Hobby is having a huge sales, nearly too good to be true. Neutral plane is as usual said, not every one of us can access the surface, so neutral planes is out of options. There is a new guys on the blog called RC Castles. They have some very hot deal over there, and RC Superpower is doing what RC Superpower has always been doing, usually doing, testing a breathtaking new plane. You could hop over to our Mr. Flying School Bus and look at the flight report of the breathtaking new jet RC Superpower is testing. If I having everything well, before we head into the chit-chat, well, it's just a way to make a video so the RC community can chit-chat with each other. Some hardware that is quite unusual, so I will roll it. Hang on, I free my hand. This is more than just a toy. That might be the motherboard, which is the capacitor and the transistor resulting in this unusual behaviors. Now I stick my fingers over it. You can see how effective this is. Now the other opposite direction. This is in the language of science a invisible gear, invisible magnetic gear, hard in work, too damn good DC motor in it. So in between is nothing, absolutely nothing. Two DC motor are independent of each other, and it might be the DC motor, it might be the control board. I have not dug into it, I have not looked into it closely. So it's a very cute little rock collar. The chit-chat continues. It is good idea that to understand electronics. When you need to fix your little guys, or when you need to upgrade your little guys. So if you would not mind me taking over a few minutes of your time, we will take into the natural pathway, chill. This quantum pathway that governs a lot of the aspects of our toys, and to have the knowledge of electronics, it will make you like an expert when you stand with the cloud and using their terminology, using their jargons, and to speak like engineers and a pro. Well, well, as much as a audience or customer stand on the sidelines, that to have an inside knowledge of the tray of the toy that you are controlling, and if you look into what they call the transistors, there is two types of transistor. They are the diagram of the transistor. This is just like our everyday life. One is a negative, a female, the other is a positive, males. The female always heads out, like if they giving birth to a new baby. The male is always go in. You cannot get wrong with that. And that's their symbol in terms of electronics. So you see that the jargon they use, NPN, negative, positive, negative. The positive is initialed, so P stands for positive. This one is the same, positive, negative, positive. Simple, hey? And same for negatives. It's so simple. One is a female, one is a male. They come in pairs, just like in our real lives. So, the rock collar you have just seen, made out of these two types of positive and negative transistors that give the freedoms of the remote control vehicle to move left, to move right, to move forward and backwards. This would carry out the positive signals, negative signals, negative signals. And electricity go through it, positive signals, negative signals. This gives you one direction. Electricity goes through it, positive signal, negative signal. It gives you a reverse direction. So in the natural pathway of electricity like to reverse its directions. So that's chit-chat number one. Chit-chat number two. We have our DC currents, outcome an AC. We have an AC current, outcome a DC. DC, which is our battery supply. So we will look into a standard circuit, only having two resistors. I do not have a resistor right with me right now, so resistor is I forgot the circuit board as well. Does not matter. The dashed line represents their polarities, just like a border of the north and south. So DC current is supplied on the circuit with two resistors in place. Guess what? In a state of DC, out come a surprise, out come a AC. A famous example is the DC motor. DC motor only restricted on one-way flow of the currents, which you take the dash line into consideration. DC motor, one-way flow, it is famous of the DC motor to give you a feedback spike. See, the feedback spike is on AC or in a reverse direction, and the DC motor go back to the normal state, gives you a big spike. So now you have some insight of how your toys work. Now, 4 resistor is arranged in a specific ways. If you applied AC currents through it, with 4 transistors tangle around and self-regulating, the AC currents outcome a surprise that you would get a DC. In some cases, you would have your toy running on a very advanced DC current. It's not an ordinary DC, it's a DC that go on and off and on and off. They call it the pulse DC. The jargon they use is longitudinal DC currents. It's a very advanced DC. It's unlike the battery DC. The battery go flat and gives you a straight DC, but in this natural pathway, 4 resistors were placed together. The DC current is in pulse. A lot of the toys control circuit is in pulse DC. So the components, such as the servo that drive the steering wheel or the servo on the helicopters, sometimes is hopped around, seems to be unstable, but actually it is a very advanced power supply. It's natural, and because the control board is running on pulse DC. So they are the 3 main pathways that's found 3-in-1 in most of our RC toys. So our RC toy is not just a toy, actually. They're running on a very advanced quantum principles. Mind you, this little humble diagram drives the advanced brushless motor. The brushless motors run on this principle sets. In their natural state, currents flow in reverse directions. Have the inside understanding is always a good idea and handy when you need to repair or when you need to multiply your toys. And we will look at how the rock crawlers goes.